Today, we're going to explore an idea about strength that might just flip what you think you know on its head. We're diving into a different kind of power, one that doesn't start with force, but with something way more subtle and, well, way more profound. Okay, this quote right here, this is the key that unlocks everything we're about to talk about. The idea that life starts not with strength, but with surrender. I mean, that's pretty radical, right? So let's really unpack what that means. So first up, we're looking at what seems like a total contradiction. Before we ever learn how to be strong in the way the world usually talks about it, we first have to experience being supported. Let's see what that actually looks like. Think about it. Our very first moments in this world, they aren't defined by what we can do, but by what's done for us. We are held before we can stand. We're listened to before we can speak. We're carried before we can build anything. You see? That's the real foundation all our future strength is built on. You know, this is a kind of truth that we feel in our bones, a lesson we learned way before we even had words for it. It's this deep, primal understanding of the world that exists way outside of our fancy intellectual systems. And this isn't just some abstract concept we're talking about. It's a real, lived experience. A woman isn't just some character in the story of life. She is, quite literally, the doorway to it. Okay, so if we start from that place of being supported, it leads us to a whole new way of thinking about power. Let's explore this unseen current, and see how it actually works. So here's a question for you. In our world, which is so incredibly loud all the time, do we miss the quiet power of real wisdom? Let's consider a different take, one that finds its strength in being subtle. You know, this quiet kind of wisdom, it doesn't need to shout. It just breathes. It doesn't have to give commands, it listens. It doesn't force things to grow, it just creates the space for them to flourish on their own. Often, this kind of quiet wisdom is called feminine energy. Now, it is so important to be clear here, this has nothing to do with gender. It's not about men or women. It's a quality of being, a deep, unseen power that just flows under the surface of everything. You can think of this power like the ocean. Yeah, on the surface, it might look calm, maybe even serene. But underneath, well, underneath there's this immense, silent strength that literally shapes continents. Or you could see it as being like the earth, this incredibly grounding, stable force that gives all life its foundation. It doesn't have to shout about how strong it is. Its strength is just there. It just is. And one more. This power is like time. It moves with this steady, patient, relentless persistence. It transforms everything it touches, not with some big dramatic explosion, but just by being constantly present. Okay, so all this talk about unseen power is great, but where does it actually show up in our lives? Well, it's in our most intimate connections that we can really truly start to get it. Yeah, intimacy is where the lesson gets real. It's where we learn to actually see, to feel, and to be truly present with another person. It's a space where we can finally go beyond just words and connect on a much, much deeper level. So just look at this comparison here. This shows a massive shift in how we can approach connection. On one side, you've got performing, trying to prove something, focused on conquering, driven by ego. On the other side, you've got listening, trying to understand, focused on connecting, guided by presence. It's about letting go of the outcome and just being in the experience. And in these moments of true connection, communication is so much more than words. It becomes this language of pure energy, of presence, of response. And to really listen on that level, well, that takes some serious patience and a whole lot of emotional courage. Now, here's something that's really easy to get wrong. This whole process, learning to listen this deeply, it doesn't make anyone weaker, it actually makes us more whole. Let's explore how this leads to a strength that's far more complete and resilient. So historically, we've kind of split the world into two separate domains, right? As you can see here, you've got the outer world, all about action, building, mastery, which was typically taught to men. And then you've got the inner world, emotion, intuition, relational intelligence, which was often seen as the domain of women. And this is the absolute key takeaway. When a man learns to navigate that inner world, he isn't becoming less of who he is. He's becoming more. He's integrating both sides and becoming a more complete human being. And this totally redefines what strength even looks like. Suddenly, compassion isn't weakness. Emotional awareness? That's not weakness, that's a superpower. Gentleness? That's an advanced form of strength, and it's absolutely essential for getting through this complex world with any kind of resilience or grace. Okay, let's bring all of this home. In our final section, we're putting it all together to look at a whole new way of being. What happens when we finally find a balance between these two powerful forms of strength? The goal here isn't to figure out this feminine energy like it's some kind of puzzle you can solve. It's not a role to define or a force to control. The whole point is to just appreciate it for what it is, a fundamental expression of life. This energy is life itself, manifesting in one of its most powerful forms. It's the force that creates, the force that nurtures, and the force that transforms. It's a power you partner with, not something you try to conquer. And when we embrace that partnership, when we really get it, our entire experience of life transforms. It stops feeling so much like a battle to be won and starts to feel a lot more like a dance. So I'll leave you with this question. What would your life look like if you chose to dance instead of fight?